Is Five Nights at Freddy's 2 a good movie? Critic and audience scores are very split on this film, and as someone who just watched it myself, I'm going to give you my completely useless opinion on the matter. Up ahead, I will talk about a non-spoiler review section and give you an answer on if I personally would recommend if you watch the film or not, followed by me talking of some spoilers of the movie on what I personally did or didn't like. If you want to listen to a completely random person on the internet's opinion of this movie, stick ahead for the following video. And thank you for not immediately clicking off when Bear 5 jump scare occurred. Alright, so some jot notes for those of you who want the non-spoiler review for this movie. I think the actual plot is very meh. It's definitely passable for a Blumhouse horror movie especially, but it's definitely nothing new or interesting even within the bracket of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. It's pretty standard for what it is. Writing-wise, this movie has some questionable choices. I will talk about some of these and my opinions on some of these and my thoughts on some of this in the spoiler section of the video. But for here, I'm just going to leave it at that. The effects are still great, and all the animatronics look more or less perfect from what the game models are to the movie. They look really good, and to my memory from the first one, those were done practically. If that's still the case in the second one, it is still an impressive feat from the first. The editing stood out to me as kind of jumpy. There's a lot of jump cuts in this movie, which led to the tension getting cut for me. The acting and soundtrack are both alright, a couple of performances that stood out to me that I'll talk about in the spoiler section, and the soundtrack, it's Five Nights at Freddy's. Overall, if you like Fnaf, I'd personally recommend checking it out. You'll probably at least get a kick out of it as a fan of the Fnaf franchise. There's a couple cool Easter eggs. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. If not, I personally wouldn't bother. It's not too unique of a movie on its own outside of being Five Nights at Freddy's 2. That is the non-spoiler section of this video. If this helped you decide the film, why? Moving on, I will be talking about my thoughts and spoilers on the movie thus far in the video. So if you haven't seen the movie and you want to see it, now is the time to leave. Okay? Moving on. Into spoiler territory now. I'm not sure how to feel about Michael Afton and Mike Schmidt being split into two characters. Especially with how much of a deviation Michael is from his game counterpart. He is a completely different character, and there's no real stated reason for him to be this psychotic murderer in the movie outside of just he's William's son, which for a horror movie is a pretty cookie-cutter explanation for a sequel villain. It's nothing really new, and it's kind of for motive and antagonist. However, I do think that Freddie Carter, who played Michael, was one of the better actual performances in the movie. He did a really good job being unsettling, and he was the singular jump scare in the entire movie that actually got me. On the general topic of performances, Matthew Lillard has again a pretty good performance as William Afton. I'd say he's actually better in this film. He had a better script and better one-liners comparatively to what he had in the first film. And he was pretty intimidating in that dream sequence. So overall, a pat on the back, big dog Matthew. I love Shaggy. I didn't hugely mind the different takes on the puppet, the toys, and the withers and how they function. I think it had to change slightly for it to fit into the plot of the movie, and to not just repeat having the same villain as William Afton in the previous film. So I'm okay with it, and ultimately speaking, they all looked good. They were all pretty one-to-one adaptations, and even though the toy animatronics have looked stupid, they always have. So that's not really a problem. Making Toy Chica voiced by Megan Fox. The funniest thing ever. Matt Pat as Toy Bonnie. Funniest thing ever. Balloon Boy getting decapitated. Funniest thing ever. Fuck you, Balloon Boy. And, of course, the original animatronics pulling up at the end of the film, Avengers Endgame style, just to have a stroke and die 5 minutes later. Funniest thing ever. Lastly, I just want to briefly touch on the kind of abrupt ending of the movie, especially with the tone change of Vanessa and Mike's relationship right at the end of the film, where they completely 180 what it seemed like Vanessa's character arc and Mike's character arc with each other was going to be in the last couple minutes. It felt like mostly shock value, but also sequel bait. However, I guess because it's probably sequel bait, we'll just see how that plays out in the next film. But as of current, it did feel like it was kind of a rushed, like, last minute thought to just change the direction so it continues into a sequel. Lastly, I just want to briefly touch on the kind of abrupt ending of the movie, especially with the tone change of Vanessa and Mike's relationship right at the end of the film, where they completely 180 what it seemed like Vanessa's character arc and Mike's character arc with each other was going to be in the last couple minutes. It felt like mostly shock value, but also sequel bait. However, I guess because it's probably sequel bait, we'll just see how that plays out in the next film. But as of current, it did feel like it was kind of a rushed, like, last minute thought to just change the direction so it continues into a sequel. With that being said, thank you for watching my slop today. Let me know what you thought of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. That's the end of the video. Goodbye.